let's take a quick look at the OCG metagame breakdown from it was released a couple days ago. I haven't looked at it yet, and they are in full swing Phantom Nightmare format. I want to say this already has Legacy of Destruction. It does have Legacy of Destruction in it. However, I'm gonna be honest, Legacy of Destruction kind of like not that impactful set, I want to say. I want to be on the lookout if we see any new cards from Legacy of Destruction in here, but for the most part, my impression, and this is only my first impression, is that the fire format has such a high power level. Like, the fire deck is really strong, and we're gonna talk about that in the tier list as well, that it's really hard for them to release anything new that really has an impact on this kind of stuff, right? Like, it's really hard for something, for example, when I'm thinking Legacy of Destruction, you got like for example, there's new Centurion support in there, which isn't bad. You know, we haven't seen the you know, the new Centurion support is decent, but it's not going to be able to perform under Fire King format. Can we get the link to the metagame report? Yeah, I can link you the metagame report. There you go. Voiceless Voice. People in chat are saying Voiceless Voice got support in Legacy of Destruction. What was it that they got? I forgot that they did get something. What did they get? I don't understand how there's no more pure Snake Eye. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. They got a new Saphira ritual and a continuous spell. Okay, let's check out if they are playing it. So when it comes to Fire King, I mean, hold up. So there is still Snake Eye, but it's only 2, which is not many compared to 25 Fire Kings. The list is relatively cookie cutter. There's not that much here to talk about, to be honest. Well, we don't have to go through the list in detail. If I am not mistaken, there's also not a single there's not a single card from Legacy of Destruction in here, which is something that I predicted. Like, when we looked at, I told you this when we read the new Dire Bells cards and stuff like that, and you guys were like, oh, but you can like lock the opponent out of doing this or that if you summon the Dire Bells and like Samorg or whatever. You're not gonna do that. As long as the fire deck is available at this power level, you're not gonna add those cards to the deck because they're not making the deck stronger. Like, you're not gonna play the new Dire Bells card as long as the deck is available in this form, pretty much, right? Like, it's very hard for them to make new cards that are good enough to make its way into this deck. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't want them to make new cards that are good enough to make it into this deck, because those cards would have to be super broken. It probably wouldn't be a good thing. What I will say is I think there's been a trend over the last couple months or weeks in the OCG, I think, is that they've simply been, they started fire format, let's just call it fire format, and they've been, ever since that has started, they've been trying to figure out, you know, what is our favorite fire deck. You know, is it Fire King, is it Rescue Ace, is it pure Snake Eye? And initially, there was a lot of Rescue Ace, then Rescue Ace received the hit on the ban list, and so Rescue Ace isn't their favorite anymore, obviously. And then it was between Fire King and pure Snake Eye, and I think at this point, it's clear. I'll answer you in a second. I think at this point, it was between Snake Eye, pure, and Fire King Snake Eye, and I think they've decided, pretty obviously, they just like Fire King too much, right? They just think, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not even that big of an engine if you look at it here. It's like it's 6 Fire King monsters, 3 Fire King spells, so it's only 9 cards in your deck, but it gives the deck an entire new dimension, right? So it's really strong, I think. It's also not the worst under Max C, which is something you always have to consider in the OCG, right? The fact that you can like start with the Fire Kings, and if you get max seed, you still have some of your disruptions on the opponent's turn, right? You can have like the Kirin into the rank 8 and all that kind of stuff on the opponent's turn if you get max seed on your own. These kind of situations, I think, is what make the Fire King deck stand out over the pure Snake Eye deck. And at this point, I'm not saying that it's definitely better than pure Snake Eye, but it's definitely, I think you can definitely say the OCG almost unanimously agrees that the Fire King version of the deck is better for the OCG format, right? Like, it might not hold true for the TCG. We're going to talk about that later. But in the OCG, it's definitely the case. It's definitely the case. So that's the situation on the fire decks right now. You know, you can clearly tell Fire King at the very top. Some people are still messing around with pure Snake Eye. Almost no one is messing around with the Rescue Ace. I can't even see a single one. Oh, there's one. There's one Rescue Ace enjoyer. Okay. But yeah. That is that. In terms of side deck, which I think is interesting, we're seeing a rise in Delta. Delta is a card that is interesting. I'm gonna hold at some point a non-engine discussion for next format. We could have done that today, but I haven't sorted out all the non-engine. I want to do it with IRL cards. We'll probably do it tomorrow or on Thursday. Like, discussing all the non-engine that you could be playing for the upcoming format, because I think it's going to change a lot. Now, one thing that I am curious about, which maybe any OCG players can enlighten me, what's the deal with Solemn Strike? What is the deal with Solemn Strike being in this side deck? Good against Ash? Well, but like not going first. Like, because the way I'm looking at Solemn Strike is like this is a going first side deck option, right? Why is Solemn Strike the card of choice here? Snake Eye Ash? Yeah, I get that. I get that. Striking Snake Eye's Ash is pretty good. But at the same time, why does it specifically have to be Strike? Because when you go first, you can side every card imaginable to you. But I guess they think Strike is the most generic, which I will say that. That's pretty based. It's pretty damn based if Strike is the going first card of choice, because that is not an anti-spell fragrance, that is not a dimensional barrier, that is not a different dimension ground, it's not an eradicator, none of that. It's not a floodgate, not a lingering floodgate, nothing that stops your opponent from playing the game, which almost the entirety of the side deck is like interactive cards besides like Droll and Lockbird. Like the entirety of the side deck besides Droll and Lockbird is like one-to-one interactive cards, which if that's what the format is about, I'm down. That's always, I think a card like Solemn Strike, ironically, if that's the kind of cards that see play, it's a good sign for a format, in my opinion. There's a few cards like this that whenever they pop up and see play, that's not a terrible sign. Like Solemn Strike is actually a card that I find relatively cool for that. But okay, we're gonna take a more in-depth look at non-engine cards for the upcoming format in the next couple days for sure. Like, we're gonna talk about all of these, you know, Delta, Droll, Cosmic, Solemn Strike, Soul Release. There's so many things we need to talk about, so many things we need to reevaluate when it comes to this format. All right, we have Voiceless Voice. Let's take a little bit more of an in-depth look at this. Legacy of Destruction comes with 2 new support cards for Voiceless Voice, but mainly Blessing of the Voiceless Voice is seeing play in the competitive scene. It's a new continuous spell that can be brought out by low. Blessing's first effect adds a Voiceless card in the grave or banished to the hand, providing resources and recursion. Recycle Saphira or prayers that were banished to activate their graveyard's effects, or salvage Radiance that is played as a one-off. That is a good point. And it is something that we're gonna talk about when we cycle through Voiceless Voice. Like we're gonna discuss Voiceless Voice as a deck. We're gonna probably build it on Thursday and look at some of the lines. One thing that I have noticed when looking into Voiceless Voice immediately is that the lines are relatively straightforward, and you don't have that much you can do to change things up, you know? Like, for example, it's an issue that it's very, I think it's comparable to something like Centurion, right? Where Centurion does a lot of the same thing every time. And Voiceless Voice is relatively similar. It's also relatively linear. Whereas, like, okay, I have low, so I'm gonna grab the continuous spell that searches from the deck. If I already have that, well, I can't really change up my line that much. I guess I get the trap card instead. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like that's kind of the vibe, right? And so Blessings of the Voiceless Voice being an additional quick continuous spell option that you can go for, and especially on the follow-up turns to change up your lines a little bit is interesting. Also, Blessing, apparently, I forgot the exact effect of Blessing, but apparently it also lets you ritual summon when a non-ritual monster is normal or special. So you can ritual summon on the opponent's turn to add a disruption. That's interesting. What kind of disruptions can you summon on the opponent's turn, though? I guess you just summon out a Soravis? Maybe. When the Light Warrior or Dragon Ritual is special summoned, it would also trigger low to special summon itself on the opponent's turn. Then you can place the continuous trap. Okay, yeah. Running a secure Gardner in the extra deck is also a consideration, as it could be used to trigger Blessings effect to perform a ritual summon. A possible scenario is as follows: opening with low and Skull Guardian in hand. Normal summon low, plays Blessing. Low into Linkuriboh. Blessing, add low back. Linkuriboh into Secure Gardner. Blessing effect ritual summon. Special summon from the grave. Add Saphira. Saphira. Add Soravis during opponents. Okay, giving you more. Okay, I see. And the way they play it is they just play one copy of that new spell. They still play 3 of the one from Phantom Nightmare, which is really, really good, obviously. The deck doesn't change that much, to be honest. It's just that, at least from what I know, I have already looked at some Voiceless Voice lists in preparation for Thursday's stream. And they all look pretty much like this. They have just slapped an extra continuous spell in here, right? That's all they've done at this point. I don't see a card that wasn't there before. Like most of this, I mean, obviously sometimes they play different non-engine and not everyone plays the pendulum graph, but like as a whole, it's pretty much the same, right? Except for that one continuous spell. Right. It seems like... you know what I find funny? You know what I actually find funny is that when they are playing Delta, they're always playing 2. I mean, always. We've looked at 2 deck lists so far, but why is it always why is it like, it almost feels like the standard was always 3 gamma, 1 driver, right? It was always 3 gamma, 1 driver, and it feels like everyone is like replacing the extra gammas with deltas. But they are somehow opposed to going 3-1-1. Because you could go 3-1-1. If Delta is good in the format, why wouldn't you play the maximum amount of good hand traps in that case, right? The only counter argument, I guess, is that you don't, if you draw 2 of them, they don't work, right? So you kind of want to minimize that. I understand that. At the same time, I'm not sure if like what the odds are of drawing 2 when you play 4. 2 driver wouldn't even 2 driver wouldn't even make a difference, because you would have a monster on the field as long as if you use one of them, right? Wait, Delta is a 10 euros rare? There's no way. Delta. You're lying to me right now. You're lying to me. Hold up. Bro. Thing is 10 bucks. It does only have 1 print. Dude, that's actually sad. Well, good thing I ordered my deltas. I unironically ordered these like a couple weeks ago. I ordered these like a month ago or something, and they were like $3 or something, or $2. I don't remember. I guess I got lucky. That is a rare, like you do not understand how rare that is. I have to celebrate that moment. I have to celebrate moments like these because they don't happen very often. It's very rare. It's not rare. It's super rare. It's Starlight rare, that moment. It's a Starlight rare moment. It's not just a rare moment, it's a Starlight rare moment. And that's it. It's funny when the metagame report only includes in-depth, you know, text on 2 different decks, right? It is worth noting though how much closer Voiceless Voice has been getting towards the fire decks. Like it does give me some hope for Voiceless Voice in the TCG, obviously. It seems to be a contender. I mean, 18.5% compared to 27.2 Fire King is not bad. Definitely not bad. Magnamood reminder. Okay, you didn't have to do that, Nips. You did not have to. Look, I'm coming up with 1 market W and you immediately bring up Magnamood. Why would you do that? I don't want to talk about Magnamood right now. Appreciate the sub though, but not like this. Let me have my moment, okay? Let me have my moment. Oh, God. Brandies. Yeah, the Brandies are at 6.5%. Chimera at 4.3, which gives... I'm assuming Chimera is also a form of a branded deck, which gives fusion decks another 10%. Dude, we got the Link deck over here. We got the Ritual deck, we got the Fusion deck, and then for some reason there's Sky Striker. Why is there 4.3% Sky Striker all of a sudden? What happened? It's locals, I guess that's fair. Like, I mean, whatever. Like in the grand scheme of things, these metagame breakdowns do include the data from a lot of. They include data from a lot of tournaments, but also from a lot of small tournaments at the same time. So like if you take it with a little grain of salt always. I think it's still good to paint a bigger picture of the format, but sometimes, I mean, I don't know how good Sky Striker really is, right? Because there's only 4. Like the absolute number is 4 Sky Strikers, right? So there's that.